Today's conversation is especially relevant for high performers and leaders who appear successful on paper, yet feel stretched, depleted, or quietly disconnected from their best work. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Climb the Confident Leader podcast. I'm your host, Rahul Karan Sharma, and I am dedicated to helping leaders move from being invisible contributor to an influential leader. Today, I'm joined by an Harvard-trained organizational psychologist, a creator of ever-achieving framework. And together, we will explore why relentless effort doesn't always equal confidence and how sustainable performance is built from self-belief and what it really means to lead without burnout in today's high-pressure environment. Our guest is a speaker, consultant, and recovering overachiever. She believes that most successful people are getting accomplishment wrong. She founded a $1 million virtual training company that serviced some of the top organizations in the world. Her curiosity about stress, motivation, and well being led to her master's degree in industrial organizational psychology from Harvard University. Our guest, imagine a world where no one needs to choose between achieving their goals and building a life worth living. On that note, please welcome Erika Coleman to the Climb Confident Leader podcast. Erika, welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Rahul. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad that we were able to connect and we were able to have you on board today. I know your schedule is packed, but very grateful for the opportunity to connect with you, to speak with you, and share your insight with our listeners. So thank you for being here. Before we deep dive on our conversation, Erika, would you please share your leadership journey with our audience from where you started and where you are today?
Yes, I'm happy to share my journey with you, Rahul. That sounds fantastic. I've always been a high achiever. I love the satisfaction that comes from doing a job really, really well, especially if it was something that was hard to figure out, like puzzles, things within the workplace. And I kind of had a philosophy growing up that as long as you did your best, and in my brain, best meant give everything that you have and then probably find just a little bit more, find it, you'll pull that energy out of your toes, then everything works out. And that served me really well for a long time. I did very well in school. I was valedictorian of my undergraduate program. I did really well in business. I started my own business, raised it to 7 figures. I was like, yeah, this is how it works. Do your best, things work out. But in March of 2022, my business was facing trouble for the first time. And I got a phone call that no one wants to get. It was, your mom's in the hospital. And we found out my mom had terminal brain cancer. And at most, she had 18 months left to live. And I was like, okay, we tackle this like everything we've ever tackled, right? So, goal number one, save the company. Goal number two, make sure not a single minute left with mom is wasted. And so every day I dug deeper. I was like, okay, we're going to pivot here. We're going to add consultants here. We're going to make a memory here. And we were pushing and pushing and pushing. And every single day you're getting up, you're tired, but it doesn't matter because this is the moment that matters the most. And gave more and more and more and more. And then just took 14 months later when my mom passed away and we buried her the day before Mother's Day. That stunk. And 2 months later, my business closed. And I remember thinking for the first time in my life, every single to-do I've ever wanted to do was checked off. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, I can rest, I guess. But then I couldn't stand back up. Literally, I didn't have enough energy left to stand. And I was still using that overachieving mindset. I was like, it'll be fine. It's going to be fine. We're going to figure this out. And then my daughter, who was then 5 years old, walked into my office and she had a picture she had colored that she was so proud of. And I was too tired to smile. And that's when I finally realized something was really wrong, that my math was wrong, that somehow it didn't all work out this time. And I was still trying to figure out, if I'm not achieving every day, what do I do? Where do I go from here? I don't want to go backwards. I've had my own company. What is next? What is supposed to happen next? And so as soon as I finally got to the point where I could, stand up again and sit at my computer comfortably, I did the most obvious thing and I applied to a master's program at Harvard, which actually is not what I would recommend for recovering from burnout. But I still was stuck in this overachieving mindset of, but you have to do something big next. And that first semester was really rough. Like my mental health definitely got worse before it got better. But I was able to also then reframe this and say, you know what? Obviously, there's something about stress I don't understand. And I am now surrounded by some of the best minds in the world. Maybe they can help me
Mm,
get it. And so I purposefully said, while I get this degree, I am going to focus on stress. I'm going to focus
mhm.
on well being. I'm going to focus on motivation and performance. I want to know how they interact and how they do things. And that, as I studied it and I applied it, I slowly began to change. And that's when I learned, okay, you can reach for those big things. You can have these successes, but you can do it in a way that doesn't cost you your health, doesn't cost
Mhm.
you relationships, and that doesn't cost you your sanity. And that was what led me to build out this even achieving framework that I have because it's
Wow.
worth it.
Well, that is an interesting journey. And first of all, sorry for your loss. And at the same time, I'm also excited that you were able to spend the quality time with your mother, specifically in
Yes.
her last 14 months. So you're fortunate to do that. And
Yeah.
so you spoke about your ever achieving framework. So untangle this for us from an overachiever to Harvard trained organizational psychologist, and you used your master's degree more for regenerating to coop up from the burnout. But what led to create your ever achieving framework?
Yeah. Well, my background, the company I built was in virtual training, the training industry. I had worked with some of the very best training organizations in the world. So my brain thinks in frameworks and my brain thinks in when you learn something valuable, then you've got to make it scalable enough for other people to learn, which makes sense too, is why I
Sure.
was drawn to organizational psychology, right? You could say, here we go. We want to be able to say, how do we take a great concept and how do we apply it practically? So that's what really I said, okay, with Harvard, let's take these things where there's academics and there's science backed information that's really helpful and really interesting. But then how do I actually make it digestible for me today so I can take it to my workplace so that I can use it to still stand up as a leader and build that confidence, but to also not do it in such a way that I'm like trying so hard to be seen that
Mhm.
I'm actually kind of hurting my body in the process. I'm not moving towards sustainability and longevity because the best leaders, we need you there for the long haul. We don't just
Yeah,
want you there for the sprint.
sure,
And so
sure.
to say, can we put this together? I also take it a lot into motherhood and home life, where honestly, you know, talk about the hardest stuff I've ever done. It's raising my children, where you're like, okay, I have a workforce that has no skills and I can't fire anybody. How do we get things done so it doesn't cost me everything? That was really what we said. Let's take the science, let's make it practical, let's make it usable, and let's make it relatable.
Hmm, interesting. And I really like the thought process you had as to when you have something good, how you make it to ensure that it is scalable. And I believe that's where a lot of corporate professionals turned entrepreneurs lack. They just focus on one aspect, which is just generating revenue, and they miss the board by making sure that the product that they have created is scalable. So I'm glad that you were able to make that a product very scalable. That's amazing. Now, moving on to the other interesting part, which I have seen many times in my corporate life, Rika, and I'm sure you would have seen it or observed as well, which is the high performers, they equate success with constant effort. So more effort is probably the high performance. So how does that pattern undermine confidence instead of building it? Share your thoughts.
I love that one. I actually wrote an article recently about this where I was like, okay, I realized before it always felt like I was spinning. Like I
Mm,
took the advice, if you're not growing, you're dying, to mean if
mm,
you're not moving, you're dying. And so it's just always spinning, trying to keep everything afloat, trying to keep everything going because I was afraid if I stopped, I would fall over. That means I'm not built on a strong foundation. Guess what confidence
mm,
is? Confidence is a strong foundation. And so
mm,
if I have built out a foundation that says, okay, I need to be strategic with my energy and not just use effort. There's so much science out there that shows that effort and achievement are not the exact same thing. The problem is we like to measure effort. It's easy. It feels good to measure effort. I'm like, well, I put all of my effort into it. Therefore, I feel satisfied. But if we look at the objective performance of it, it actually may or may not have been effective. It just felt that way. So it's one of those things where we can say, okay, effort is a feeling thing. Feelings are good data. They're not always accurate data. And so
Mhm.
let's pull it out and say, okay, that was a feeling thing for me. Did it actually achieve what I want? And was it built on something strong enough that if I held still, it's not going to fall over? Because if I've
Mm.
built it on something strong enough that it won't fall over, then I will have confidence. Then I'll be able to stop when I need to stop. Then I'll be able to say, look, this is good enough. Let's move on. This is great.
Interesting. A valuable point, or probably I would say a golden nugget being dropped by Erika here. Many of the high performers, they believe or they feel that if you are not moving, you are dying. And that's what Erika mentioned. It is not about that you are dying, it is because you do not have a very strong foundation. So, if aspiring leaders, when you are entering to that leadership role, or probably you are entering into corporate world, make sure that you build a very strong foundation. And I would not say that you need to build a strong foundation when you're moving to the corporate America. I always believe that the foundation starts from your formative years, maybe from your high school, maybe from your college. If you start developing, and still it is better late than never. You can always build your strong foundation as and when you are entering the workforce. But my recommendation would be start start early and build that strong foundation so that you don't see that burnout coming in. You don't see someone sabotaging you or someone taking you for a ride. Your confidence is within you. And remember, you are the best product and you need to invest in your product. So, thank you for bringing that thought process into the mix, Erika, because most of us, in this constant pressure of hustle and bustle, the speed is the name of the game. We tend to think that if we are not moving, we are dying. So that thought process that build your strong foundation is very, very important.
Yes, and I
Now,
would even add with that really fast is that I had to learn that movement and growth are different. They move at different
mm,
speeds. So be growing
mm,
always, but don't be moving always. There is a
mm,
difference.
wow, another important piece, the movement and growth, they do not run in the same speed.
In
You
fact,
do
if you're
not.
moving too fast, you can hurt your growth quite a bit.
Mm,
I always like to think of I like to start seedlings. I garden quite a bit. One time in trying to speed up the process of my seedlings growing, I left the lights on all day, all night, all day, all night. Thought, well, of course, you need light to grow. So move faster. Let's make it faster and more intense. And all it did was burn up, and I had to plant again.
yeah, I always believe that with the concept of less is more, Erika, and the point that you are bringing it up is movement is not equal to growth. I always have this foundation of having that calmness in your work and making sure that you focus on your strength. And my kids, both my son and daughter, they are bored with me because I always tell them that play on your strength. Yes, we need to know what our areas of improvement are, but do not get defocused, because if you are good at something, just leverage it. You will naturally, you will become better, and be mindful of your blind spots or areas of improvement. So thank you for bringing that up. That is just not always about movement. If you're not moving does not mean that you will not grow. They do not go in the same speed, they do not run on the same speed. I want to change gears and come back on your framework, Erica, because I do feel that our leaders today, and I would not say leaders today, and I think I'm also party to it, where we used to take stress, where we used to take overworked as a badge of honor. If we are overworking, if we are involved in each and everything, we used to feel proud, and then we used to feel that, man, nothing can happen without me. That kind of thought process. So share with us that your ever achieving framework. How does that empower today's workforce to avoid that stress as a badge of honor?
I think first, if you're okay, I'd like to unpack a little bit why we're willing to take on stress. And I think it's because we feel stuck with it. Because if
Mm,
I'm super stressed out, I tend to get two different types of advice. I'll either get bucket one, which is some version of just do less, which is like, oh, you're stressed out, go take a break, take a vacation, delegate a little bit more. Or I actually had one manager once tell me, Erica, nobody wants your 100%, just give 80%. And I was like, you want me to get a B minus on purpose? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. And it was this moment of I was interpreting do less as care less. And I don't do that. I can't do that. Anyone who's a leader or has started their own business, we don't care less. That's what
Yeah.
got us moving. And
Hmm.
so the other types of advice we get, like if we were to Google, how do I manage my stress? We're told whatever the latest well being trend is. It could be everything from drink more water to do yoga to all sorts of lists of stuff, which could help. But if I'm at the point that I'm so stressed out, I'm Googling it, I really am being told to do more things. And I don't have time or space to do more things. Like I'm already at the edge of everything. And so I think when that gets to that point, we're like, well, I can't do less and I can't do more. So therefore, I'm just stressed and I accept it as a way of life. That's the problem we're dealing with right here is that we're saying we feel stuck in that problem of, but I don't want to give up the things that matter to me. And I don't have time to do the things that take care of me. So therefore, I should be proud of it. It's who I am.
Hmm.
And so, with even achieving, though, what I learned in my own story was okay, no matter what, I don't want to be an underachiever. Nope. That is not attractive to me. And yet, overachieving was dangerous. And so that's when I said, there's got to be a way to even achieve. There's got to be a way that says, okay, what's this middle point? And actually, one of the pieces of research that started to change everything about how I looked at stress happened in
Hmm.
my stress class. It was the last week. And he talked about
Hmm.
the dark side of coping. It's like there's a dark side of
Hmm.
coping. And he gave us a study by Adam Grant and Barry Schwartz. And he said they found out that even the most virtuous behaviors, if you do them too much, either A, give you diminishing returns, or B, those good things actually can become harmful to you, no matter what they are. And that's when I went, I just assume if this was a good thing to do, then the more I do it, the more it helps me. But that's not always the case. In fact, it's rarely the case. That the more good I do in that thing, the harder I lean into it, at some point it tips. And so the most important thing I learned at Harvard was that you don't have to give your all in order to give your best. They are not the
Mm.
same thing. And
Wow.
that's when I started to say, okay, let's think about this in other terms. I thought about, okay, I did theater growing up. And so I remember having a coach once be like, you've got to leave it all on the stage. It's not a good performance if you don't leave it all on the stage. And in high school, that's fine. I had like 4 performances. And I even remember by closing night, I had ripped my throat up so bad I had laryngitis for a month and a half. But that's fine. I only had 4 performances. I just had to make it to
Hmm.
closing night. But if you're on Broadway, that advice stinks. It's bad advice. In fact, I've got a good family friend who is the only remaining cast member of the original cast of Hamilton. And he has done for the last 10 years 8 shows a week. That's like
Mm.
more than 2,000 performances of a Tony award winning level show that he has to on the weekends, do a matinee, and then do an evening performance. If he goes in with that matinee and leaves it all on the stage, he can't do an evening performance. So, what we've learned is that his best has to be a sustainable best. It can't actually be his all because he's got
Mm.
to be able to keep up with it as the shows continue to go. It happens with all professional sports. They don't leave it
Yeah.
all on the field or they get injured. So it
Mhm.
should be the same thing with us as we look at corporate world and corporate life. How do I make sure I'm getting in there and I'm giving my best? But then I step away so that I'm not giving my all because my all also belongs to one, my health, and two, my relationships.
Mm. Well, I think you are opening this Pandora's box because this has been the mantra for so long that you have to give all in, you have to be all in. And what you're bringing is a perspective that you don't need to be all in to give your best. And this is one of the advice I gave to my son who just got selected for his sixth grade school basketball team. And I tell him that from a practice perspective, like sports or basketball is a very physical contact sport. And if you end up into an injury, there is a likelihood of that you may not be able to play. And when you're not able to play, that means no matter how good you are, you're not making contribution to your team. So give your best, but at the same time, you need to be mindful of the injuries that happens in sports. And I'm not saying that injuries will not happen. It's part and
Oh, yeah.
parcel. But
They're going to
what
come on their
what
own. Just don't rush them
right?
to you.
Yes, yes, it will automatically come. You just don't need to go to that injury. So what you are also bringing is a great thing is we need to take care of our health. We need to take care of the family. We need to take care of that mental fitness of ours, because sometimes we give so much in to our corporate work, to our business, that we don't have anything left for our loved ones. And our
Exactly.
loved ones get the not so great behavior from us. Whereas it has to be balanced, or I would say it is the loved ones who has get our the best time, the best behavior, because they will be with you no matter whatever happens to you.
Exactly.
Whereas in the other scenario, if you're doing good, everyone is with you. The moment you stop doing good, people will start questioning you, and you do not know when you will get a call from the HR, and things may
Mhm.
not go for you. So just be mindful. And thank you, Erika, for bringing that up. That you don't need to give in all to give your best.
Nope.
Now, I want to segue to another point that I believe is very important for corporate world is we hardly can achieve anything when we work in silos.
Yeah.
It is so important for us to collaborate with one, our own team, and two, with the other teams in the organization, whether it is the front ending team or the revenue generating team or probably the back end team. So my question to you is, how does individual confidence allow people to impact their collaboration across team and department? Does confidence has anything to do with people collaborating, or it is all
100%.
different? Okay. Okay.
100%. Okay, so oh gosh, so many great thoughts here. First and foremost, in my work with overachievers, I have found out that a good chunk of us really stink at asking for help. We're terrible at it.
Mm.
And so I actually have spent quite a bit of time going, why are we so bad at this? Why are we so bad at asking for help? One of them, I think, is that a deep seated belief that we want to be seen as competent and capable. So there's your confidence piece right there. I want to be seen as confident and capable. And because of that, I'm going to do certain behaviors usually. Now, if I'm not confident at all, I'm probably going to be veering towards underachieving, which means I'm going to hand off all of my work to somebody who I think does it better. But if I'm trying so hard to prove to you that I am competent and capable, I might hang on to work that I should be hanging off, that handing off to others. And that's one of the tricky things when it comes to especially collaboration with teams and silos is knowing where I can say, I'm strong here and I have somebody else who's strong here that if we work together, perhaps can create an even better product than either one of us could do alone. That takes
Mm.
so much confidence to say, I don't lose any of my status when I share that. And or enough confidence to say, I am good enough at delegating and spotting when somebody else has potential that I can effectively incorporate them into this project. That's true, deep, difficult leadership skills that are grounded on, do I believe I am confident enough in my own capabilities to know where I hand off, what I hang on to, and where I invite others in?
I think the other aspect that is coming to my mind, Erika, is our own insecurities also prevent us to collaborating with others, because as you rightly mentioned that we don't collaborate with others because we do not feel confident about our own capabilities, and I
Mhm.
want to relate that with the insecurity, because many a times I observe that why we are not using the resource that is available at the disposal of the company from a longer larger perspective, not longer per
Mhm.
se, but larger. And as you mentioned that most of us, we get stuck in terms of asking for help. And I always used to tell to my team, and I tell my attendees that don't ask for help to look weaker, but ask for help to become stronger.
100%.
Most of us, we don't ask for help because we assume that others will feel that we are not competent. And I think that's a bigger myth. So you ask for help not to look weak but to become stronger is so important. And I also like your perspective, Erica, that you mentioned about from a confidence perspective. If the two teams, they are working together, it is that synergy that we talk about. It's one plus one is not two, one plus one is probably 11. That synergy only happens when we are working together, when we are collaborating with others. So I
Exactly.
really
Fascinating research on that. Can I share it real quick? Because the research makes me so happy.
sure,
They
absolutely.
did a study where they had 2 different types of teams, and they had a team that where they'd gathered obviously the brightest minds, all of the smartest, high-performing people, and they put them in one team, and then they took another team and said, "Okay, here's our middle performing people." Which one do you think actually performed better? The middle performing people did, and it was because they learned quickly other people are one of your greatest resources. Instead of
Mhm.
trying to stand on their own intelligence and their own achievements, they said, let's collaborate really, really well. Let's see what we create as a whole. We are interdependent, and they consistently get more and more things done. So if you're a high performer, you need to realize, yes, you can be as smart as you want, but until you can collaborate well with others, you will never reach your top achievement. So for
Mhm.
me, I'm always thinking, okay, other human beings are my one of my greatest resources, and I don't use them well enough. And if I
Yeah,
really want to reach the top, I need to use as many resources as a possible for me.
correct,
So I've
correct.
got to let myself go and reach for some others.
Yeah. And when you were sharing that research data, what was going in my mind is I have observed in my 20 plus years of career that many times there are people who do not have a title of a leader, who do not have a title of a manager. They are purely individual contributor, yet they command a lot of respect. They
Mhm.
command that support from others. And I think what you are bringing up with this research really resonate because they are the ones who are not limiting their strength to just themselves. They are able to identify who have that strength for a particular task. They collaborate with others, and
Mhm.
because they are able to collaborate, they are able to win the respect, the trust from people, even though they are not a leader, they do not have the formal title of a manager. So
Exactly.
I
They
really
have
second that
power.
research.
They have power within their social capital. So, as
Mhm.
I've worked within organizational development, they teach us if you want to make organizational change, for instance, it's not necessarily people with the titles that you should be
Mhm.
targeting. You go to the
Yeah.
meetings and you wait for, there's usually some person, kind of usually the back corner in the big meetings, that's usually sitting kind
Mhm.
of like this. But if they speak up and everybody's heads turn, that person is the most influential person in the room. They have social capital.
Absolutely.
And we can't ignore that. If you're a leader, you can say, look, if I can build social capital while also building out their resume, building skills, or the things that they're going to want to see in the next level of leadership that I'm going to, then you're going to have real power to create impact, change, and longevity.
Mhm. And I think you're bringing another great point, and I know we are running on a
Sorry.
time, but what I wanted to share is that was another, I think, Harvard research I read a few years ago. Almost 70 plus organization development or leadership development efforts fail.
Mhm.
And primarily it was because on the communication aspect. And I also have a very similar observation that when organization is facing from a change management or they are doing any transformation, they only call people with the title in the room. They only call people from a hierarchical perspective. The top in the line, they are in the room. As you rightly mentioned, that not necessarily people with title will be able to move the change in the right direction. It is those people who are not having a title, but having a lot of weight in terms of the respect, in terms
Mhm.
of their collaboration they are able to do, the kind of integrity that they have, or the kind of support they get from others is really make a difference. So I really second that thought. And if there are any leaders who are looking for organization change, focus on those individuals who do not have a title, but definitely command the respect, definitely have that courage to take that bold step. You need to focus on those people. Now, before I move on to the next segment, which is the rapid fire, I wanted to also take your inputs. If there are any practical habits or any mindset shift, you can request our listeners to adapt if they are having any challenge when it comes to their confidence, if they are on the verge of burnout, what one or two things they can do in this week to come out as a more confident person and to avoid that burnout that is probably next on their door.
Love that. Of course I do. I've got lots of stuff, but I'm going to limit it to two action items for this group. I think first and foremost, when we're dealing with how to handle our stress and achievement and this tricky balance beam that we've got going on, the hardest part is to figure out when we're tipping too far to either side. Because when I'm super stressed out, I know about it, but I don't know exactly when that tip started to happen. So, if we want to take better care of our individual health, so our mental, our emotional, our physical health, we need to learn to check in on our pace. And if we want to take better care of our social health, so our relationships, we need to learn how to check in on our presence. So I have two questions that you can ask to help with that checking in part. So these are your action items. Question number one is for your pace. It works best in a project context or anything where you can kind of put a deadline, a start and end date on something. In that context, you want to say, okay, if I continue at this pace, when I'm done, will I have enough energy left to celebrate? Because if I do, great, that's sustainable. If not, I'm running too hard too fast. And if I don't want to celebrate, then I've got a motivation check I've got to figure out because that's also not sustainable. The second question that you can ask, this one's for your social health. Go to somebody that's in your life right now that you love being in your life and that you want to have in your life a year from now and ask them, in the last 30 days, have I been present enough for you? Because it erodes slowly. And if you want them here in the next year, ask that question now. So if you need to recalibrate, you have time to do so.
Interesting. These two tips that you mentioned, I'm sure it is something very, very practical. We can adopt it instantly. So, listeners, if you are on a verge of a burnout, or if you are on a verge where your confidence is not pouring in you, ask these two questions to check your professional health as well as social health. Thank you, Erika, for bringing that up. And the last question before I move to our rapid fire, if they're excited listeners of ours, if they are very much fascinated with the work that you have done, Erika, and if they want to bring to their organization, what's the best way for them to connect with you? And if you can share what kind of tangible results they can expect by collaborating with you.
Love that. So first I'll talk to you if you're leading a high performance team or if you are on a group of high performers on a team and you want to see, am I really truly high performing or are we kind of eking our way closely quietly to burnout? I have an assessment you can take to check in with that free assessment. That is at balanceyourteam.com. You can check that one out. We're happy to get that there and it'll kind of connect you with what do we do from here based on how you're doing. And then, of course, I'm on LinkedIn. Come find me on LinkedIn. I'm writing every week. I'm posting every week. Just Erika Coleman on LinkedIn. If you look up Even Achieving, you'll find me there as well. With Even Achieving, the goal again is where do we find that balance so that we can continue to reach for success? Because I'm not willing to let those standards drop, but I'm going to do it in such a way that it doesn't cost me my health, my relationships, or my sanity.
Excellent. So, team, we will include that assessment link on our show notes so that you can use that assessment. And we'll also include Erica's LinkedIn connection link so that you can directly reach out to her as soon as this episode is out. All right. So, tons of information that we shared, we explored on the confidence and the performance and the stress perspective, Erica. Now we have this fun rapid fire round where we want to highlight a different side of yours. So,
Okay,
are you ready? We will be having
I'm ready.
5 questions for you.
Okay, here we
Okay.
go.
The first one, a quotation you live by.
Remember, it's not about your pace or placement on the path that matters as much as your progress. That's by Emily Bell
Mm.
Freeman.
That is hitting hard to many people, and I'm sure they will really take a step back and really think from their future perspective. Second one, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning, 100%. I love mornings. I feel like
Okay.
few things are as wonderful as a great sunrise.
Okay. What's one leadership skill you wish someone had taught you earlier?
Patience. I don't know that they could have taught it to me, but if there's
Okay.
one I wish that I had, it was patience. So, yeah.
What's one daily routine you never skip?
I am religious, so it's prayer and scripture study.
The last one, if your career were a Netflix series, what would be the title of season one be?
Probably there and back again. Just a little bit nerdy with our Hobbit reference, but also, there's been a lot to go there and back again.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Erika, for being so sporty and Thank you for sharing these kind of responses. I'm sure this would be loved by our audience and our listeners, or if you're watching us on YouTube, this is the time for you to mention in comments your biggest takeaway from our show today. And before I let Erica go, I would want to share my takeaways. There have been many golden nuggets that were dropped by Erica throughout the episode. The first one is, if you're not moving, you are dying. That is the myth many of us we believe in. And that myth was busted by Erica by making sure that you do have a strong foundation. That myth becomes true when your foundation is not strong. So focus on building a strong foundation. If your foundation is strong, then you will be unstoppable. Movement and growth, they do not run at the same speed. Movement does not equal to growth. And that is another myth we all have, is movement and growth, they go in parallel, but unfortunately is not true. Another thing that I learned from America is you do not have to give it all to give your best. You can still provide very controlled performance to make it happen, because when you give it all, it is not sustainable. And you, as leaders, your organization needs you for a marathon, not just for a sprint. So you need to keep that pace, keep that calm energy, and make sure that you are there for a long race for that marathon. Another one is, one of the ways where people lose confidence, or probably they are not able to impact more when they are in a cross functional environment, is they resist or hesitate in asking for help. Our recommendation is, ask for help, not to look weak, but to become stronger. And finally, the tips for someone who is on the edge of burnout, someone who is lacking confidence. The two tips which you can adapt today itself is, one, from a professional perspective, check in your pace. What pace are you running? What pace are you working? If you're running too fast, you will end up hurting yourself, you will end up getting exhausted, and you will not be able to do it from a sustainable perspective. From a social perspective, you need to focus on checking your presence. Are you mentally present with your family members? Are you mentally present with your loved one? If that is not there, you need to think what you need to do differently to make sure that you are mentally present with your loved ones. With that said, thank you, Erica, for dropping in so much of golden nugget. Thank you for sharing your insights to our aspiring leaders. We have been very motivated to learn from you, and wishing you all the best. And thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't mention I have a TED Talk that's also coming out. Check that out on YouTube in the coming months.
All right. And we will include that in our show notes too. So thank you, Erica, for dropping that up. And kudos to you for that TED Talk.
Thank you.